My Friend Dahmer.
Yes.
Yes. So this is adapted from the 2012 graphic novel by John Backdurf, who's better known as Durf, which is a fun nickname.
Yeah, I saw it, Durf back Durf.
Well, he's
credits.
John Backdurf, and then he just took the last bit and went Durf, which is a cool move. And so he's a very successful cartoonist, and he also happened to be a classmate of one of history's most notorious serial killers, Jeffrey Dahmer, who in 1991 confessed to the murder of 17 men. And so this is about his memories of Dahmer from high school, and they sort of became friends. So Backduff in this film is played by Alex Wolff, who was also excellent in Hereditary.
Of course, he's the son in Hereditary.
Yeah, and we have a little clip of how they sort of first interacted with each other.
Dahmer, where have you been? I think that we should form a Dahmer fan club.
What?
Yeah, there's only so much time left. I think with you as our fearless leader, we can really disrupt this school, go out in style.
Yeah, and infamy. Yeah, and if we don't, I'm gonna have to do something crazy, like kill the Pope.
Dahmer, look, I already drew you, actually. This one's called Dahmer and a Bag of Groceries. What do you think? And as part of the Dahmer fan club, I appoint myself the Minister of Propaganda.
So yeah, there was kind of already a bit of a weird fascination with him there. And I feel like you would assume this film would work somewhat as a serial killer origin story. And so there is a natural compulsion here that you would want to understand what made him a killer. And I think that's the focus of so much of our obsession over serial killers. It's morbidity, but it's also that question of what makes a man a monster. And that's where things like Netflix's Mindhunter spring out of.
Yeah.
But I would say My Friend Dahmer doesn't answer those questions. And it does breach a lot of the issues that people bring up, like his disharmonious family life. He had a mother with a mental illness. He had his confusion over his sexuality. He was, like in this film, he's obsessed with the local doctor, this man who dogs past his house every single day. But it throws those elements out there, but it doesn't really offer any conclusions. And so Dahmer in this film is played by Ross Lynch, who is actually from the Disney Channel show Austin and Ally.
Wow, that's what one of my kids said. And I was like, what? I'm not that I was watching My Friend Dahmer with my kids. But
Yeah.
I was watching it on a computer, and they walked into my room. And I paused it immediately, but it was on a close-up of the actor playing Jeffrey Dahmer. And my daughter said, that's the guy from Austin and Ally. Is this a kid's film?
Yeah.
I said, no.
No, do not bring your children to see this. But he is actually fantastic in this movie. And he really, I'm going to be careful about phrasing this. He really does manage to humanize Jeffrey Dahmer. And I don't mean that crucially making him a sympathetic character, which I don't think this film does. I think it focuses on him, it observes him, but I don't think there's any sense of tragedy here. And it's more just about the fact that he was human. He was a teenager like the rest of us, and he was just sort of a weird kid back then. And I think Ross Lynch really captures that physicality. He has the hunched over shoulders. He really keeps all the anxiety in a knot in his stomach, and the rest of his limbs are weirdly kind of loose and bumbling. And he also had this thing about always being the class clown, that he always wanted to make a scene, which this film suggests was a way to deflect attention from some of his more worrying qualities. And I think what I really got from this film is that it is removed by sort of one thing from the original authorship of John Backduff, but I feel like you can still feel a sense of guilt really coming strongly out of the film, which obviously is completely undeserved guilt because no one would expect a high schooler to be able to figure out what was going on with Jeffrey Dahmer or what to do about it. But I just can't imagine being in that situation and not feeling a sense of guilt about it. And I think almost this film and the original graphic novel, I guess, was a way of kind of processing those emotions. And so I think by deliberately not really giving us the answers we're looking for, it manages to really confront the idea that as a society, we don't know how to recognize the red flags. We don't know how to intervene in a situation in which, we feel like we should be doing something. My one problem, though, with My Friend Dahmer is that it does feel a little on the nose at times. Like, there are a lot of lines that are obviously creepy statements like, "Oh, I like bones." And my problem, I don't know whether this criticism is legitimate because maybe he just did say that a lot. I don't know. And it might have to do with the compression of time as well, that we're just seeing all these events kind of packed together. But I did feel like it was a little bit more obvious than necessary that this guy was going to turn out to be a serial killer.
Right.
Which otherwise I think is a very nuanced and interesting film.
It's what Mark would call the chubby moment. Which
Yeah.
is, you know, when you have biographical movies that sort of do a bit where it sort of preempts what we all know they're going to end up doing.
Yeah, there's
which
one
is a bit of a fourth wall
particular
breaky
moment.
kind of
Yeah.
thing to do.
Yeah.
But I expected nothing from this movie. I thought it was going to be a bit of a cheap shot at, you know, like you're saying, morbidity and just that sort of gross fascination we have about these kind of things. But I was really surprised by it. I was entertained by it. I thought, like you say, Ross Lynch's performance I thought was amazing. And I really forgave it, those moments. But I know exactly the moments you're talking about. And I forgave it that because there was this sort of humility to it and honesty to the approach in how they made it. And like you say, that personal element with Durf McDurf really brought something to it. And I was pleasantly surprised by this film.
Yeah.
It really was.
Yeah, I think for anyone who, I know there's lots of people who have sort of an interest in serial killers, I think it's definitely worth seeking out because it sort of reframes how we think about these things a little bit.